The Best Deck Ever series is back, and this time for Pauper. They took a list of all the best decks throughout the years, grabbed all the best content creators they could find, and this is round 1 of the elimination tournament. I'll be playing Turbo Initiative. Joining me today is Carl Perks from Card Market. Let's jump into the action. Alright, so match number 1 here. I actually start on the draw, so I lose the die roll to Kali on his terrifying Familiar Storm.
I assume this is a mull, because
yeah, this was definitely
here even.
This was definitely a mulligan. Fortunately, I'm not the only one that mulligans here. These decks are both very mulligan dependent.
Yeah.
Kali leads off by mulling to 6, so I get a free mulligan here, and this looks great. So
this looks like a very strong hand.
Yeah.
So what are you looking to do here? Your Battle Rager, I didn't play with it very long because it was auto-banned, but it cost 5, right? No, it cost 4.
There are 2 4-drops and 1 5-drop. So Battle Rager and Aarakocra are both the 4-drops, and then the Underworld Explorer is the 5-drop. So you can play this on turn 2. Yes, this is a turn 2 initiative start. And you'll notice that Kali mulled to 5 here. So we actually are way ahead. Which is terrifying because this is still a close match.
Yeah, that deck is so scary, and I think if I had one person I'd be afraid to face in this tournament. I mean, I very much respect the Familiar Storm deck, but Kali on anything like cost reduction based mid-range combo is terrifying. I would be so scared to face him.
He is a force of nature when familiars are involved. So this is a mulligan. I actually opt
So what are you shipping?
Yeah, so I throw back the lose focus here with the plan
over the snuff out.
Yes, and the reason is because the first section of the initiative gets me a basic land. So I know that I will have a swamp for the snuff out.
Good call.
Now, the idea was that Snuff Out can deal with familiars without paying mana, and since turn 2 is going to be my initiative turn, turn 2 is probably his familiar's turn, and I wanted to be able to have a response.
So I noticed you saying the idea was, so I assume it didn't play out according to plan?
That's not quite how it goes, and you'll understand very quickly why. But let's run it through here. So
all right. So Kali mulls to 5, plays an island.
Yeah, Kali mulls to 5, just plays an island and pass. I draw a Dark Ritual here, which is actually perfect.
It's good, but it's also, you didn't really need it here?
No, it's actually the best draw, because I can now play the Peat Bog and turn 1 the Battle Rager.
And turn 1 off of... Okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So now I get my...
What a whole turn ahead.
Yeah, so now I'm a whole turn ahead, and I get to play my tap land anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome. Huge. The initiative is so broken.
It's so
on turn 1, it's absurd.
And then
and he does nothing for turn.
He does nothing, which is actually crazy to me that he just plays a bounce land here.
I mean, his deck blows off really quickly.
It does.
But maybe if he doesn't have white, he needs the familiars. No, he's playing 3 colors. He's playing Esper. This is old school familiars. Yeah, that's the only thing. The mana fixing in Pauper is not great. So
it wasn't at this point, no. And so this is a really easy forge here. I expect this to be snapped 100% of the time. But since he didn't play a creature here, like a black familiar or anything that can attack, I'm not really afraid of this getting snapped and losing the counters, just because when I get to replay it immediately and then get an extra trigger on the initiative anyway. So
does the Esper list run a lot of counter magic? No, there's Cloud of Fairies. Not Cloud of Fairies. There's oh no, there's nothing.
No, it's just snaps.
Oh wow.
So I wasn't afraid of counter magic at all. I got to hard commit as soon as I could every time, which was pretty amazing. He brings Spell Pierce in from the sideboard, but that's all he's got.
You just drew another swamp, which is kind of unfortunate, but...
Yeah, I drew another land here, which is pretty unfortunate, but I play the Saprazan Scary just in case I top deck an Aarakocra or something that I need the blue mana for, like a Lose Focus or something.
I mean, you don't need to play the Snuff Out yet. You can hold it.
And I didn't think that the Snuff Out had any value here.
And he plays an Evolving Wilds.
Yep.
He's not done anything yet.
Nope, he has not, which is incredibly nice for me. But again, he was on a mull to 5, so obviously he's not really going to be at full power. We hit a 5-drop. This is our 5-drop, so we get
yeah.
an extra trigger of initiative here, regardless of whether or not he bounces this, which is pretty good because it advances us to throne faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
this game is going great for you.
Yes, I mean, this is as good as we could ask for, quite honestly. But turn 3 is kind of his combo turn.
But he hasn't played anything yet. I think they usually have to set up with a familiar in turn 2, no? I haven't played this. Yeah, I heard this specific familiar deck is terrifying.
Yes, it was. And so he leads with a floating blue mana and a Nightscape familiar here, which is pretty scary because he has a lot of things that untap 2 and 3 land, and now they all cost 1 or 2.
Yeah, he's got Snap, he's got Cloud of Fairies that he can play here. Snap, there you
Search.
go. This deck is so full of absurd cards.
So he's actually going to draw quite a few cards here.
He's got blue floating.
Snap into Cloud of Fairies, into Deep Analysis. He's not done. He's going to keep going.
Frantic Search. Wow. So how are you feeling here? Do you feel like you lost the game?
So I was afraid, but then he flashbacked Deep Analysis. And the flashback of Deep Analysis, putting him at 6, means that I'm pretty
it changes your clock.
It does. It also means that any trap trigger in the future is lethal. So if I hold this or am able to trigger it down a couple more times, then I'm in there.
Well, trap is 5. So if he manages to snap your creature, then he's still away from lethal.
He's down to 1, yes. But ideally, I get 1 more attack with this 3/7 at this point. But so once he has double familiars, it's pretty bad for me. This is the point where the Multi 5 really hurts him. He compulsive researches here and snaps, and I fully expect him to bounce all my lands. And then he just
what's his storm count? 9. Yeah, technically you could have lost the game here. You're talking like someone who didn't lose the game.
He just doesn't. He just passes the turn.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm assuming that compulsive research just like hard bricked because he just stopped dead in his tracks.
That deck is so scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying how quickly it goes from 0 to 100. Consider, like, I'm a deck that goes initiative on turn 1, and I'm afraid of how fast his deck goes. Like,
yeah, and it sucks here because you have the Snuff Out, but it's dead because
because he went with the wrong familiar first, which is
or the right familiar, depending who you ask.
Yes, but this taught me a valuable lesson here because now I value the lose focus over the Snuff Out in the future. I think that that's probably a more important card selection because my original idea was that I can snuff out his creature, but now I'm realizing that depending on which one he leads with, that might not be the out. So I'm thinking loose focus was the better keep this time.
I mean, if he put 2 Sunscape familiars down, we'd be calling you a genius right now.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's all context.
It is, definitely.
At least you have a throne trigger here.
But my idea is that ultimately, Snuff Out will answer half his familiars, but Lose Focus ideally will cancel all of them. So in the future, I prioritize that. I do have a Throne trigger here. This is an interesting choice because I have a choice between Menace, which forces him to block out, Flying, which forces him, or which kind of denies him the ability to easily take the emblem away with his Cloud of Fairies. Or I play the Battle Rager, once again kind of putting a clock on him because he can't interact with it, and if it attacks and he blocks, he loses 5, and if he doesn't block, he's dead to trap.
Lethal with the trap, right?
Yeah, so I end up taking the Battle Rager here. I think it's the right call.
I agree. I mean, what's he going to do with the initiative anyways? You're taking it back almost every turn.
Yeah,
well, exactly. Depending on the blocks, but...
So we end up with the Battle Rager.
You get a land.
We get a land. We draw an Aarakocra Sneak anyway.
Oh, you can play another Battle Rager even. Or would you play the Sneak here? Oh, well, I'm about to find out. Yeah. But I guess now you have the luxury of playing the Sneak, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to Forge. So I get to buff the Sneak too.
Yeah, that's super good.
Everything is a lethal out now, which is great. Because if he takes the initiative back... and I get to hit him with either of these creatures, I take it and immediately trap. And if he doesn't, I trap on my upkeep, and I can force him to have to do some awkward things because he's dead either way to Battle Rager.
Normally I'd say you won here, but his untaps get... his
Yes.
turn could be lethal here.
So he does go to his untap, so it's not over yet. And
Okay, he
we're going to
floats 3.
see. He floats 3. He cycles a cloud of fairies, and then he scoops. Unfortunate, he did hard whiff on that last turn with the compulsive research. So that was the magic. End of game 1.
He mulled to 5.
Yeah, a very tight game. I mulled to 6, he mulled to 5. And these decks are very mulligan intensive anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's actually really helpful because when that deck first existed, the new mulligan didn't exist. So
yeah, that's one of the
way better for it now.
Yeah, it's one of the cool dynamics of this tournament. These old combo decks suddenly get a lot better with the new mulligan rules.
Definitely. We go into game 2 here.
So
okay, cool.
Your sideboarding. Do you want to talk about your sideboard a bit?
Yeah, so my sideboard admittedly is a little questionable. There's always a really interesting dynamic with playing very proactive pseudo combo decks like this, where you have to decide whether or not you want to protect doing your thing, or you want to try to stop your opponent from doing their thing, or you want to try to do some mixture of both. And so I made a very impulsive decision, I think, here, by bringing in a lot of the hate and trying to stop him from doing the thing, rather than to focus on doing my thing.
Yeah.
And that's not always a bad decision. You know, I'm not opposed to that decision. I kind of stand by it in this game. I was on the draw after just winning on the draw. I ended up taking out a Mole Drifter, all 4 Snuff Outs, and 2 Lose Focuses. And I mean, I brought in, what did I bring in? Double Crypt Rats, Duresses, and Dispels. And
the Duresses feel weird against his deck because...
Yeah, so my idea was that he has no graveyard recursion in that deck. So if you can take the Temporal Fissures away, he sort of loses his win condition.
But he has so much draw, right?
Like, he can still... Yes, but he can still, like... He can still kind of just go wide on the board, but he can't really reset me without a Temporal Fissure. So I figured if I could land an early Duress and just snag one... Or I could snag an early snap and like stop him from bouncing my creature.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That kind of idea.
And what do you think he's bringing in? Did you look at his list before?
Yeah, all he really had was Spell Pierce. So that's all I was expecting
Prismatic
him to
Strands
bring in.
would also not be terrible.
The only thing about Prismatic Strands is it doesn't stop trap damage. So while it stops me from attacking him in combat, it doesn't stop Battle Rager triggers, which is loss of life.
That's correct, yeah.
And it doesn't stop trap. So I didn't think he was going to bring in Prismatic Strands, and I don't think he did. I don't know for sure what he ended up sideboarding here. But I expected to see Spell Pierce from him. That was kind of what I expected.
If you see him bringing in 3 Spell Pierce, suddenly the Lose Focus and the Snuff Outs are a little bit worse. I still think Lose Focus is pretty good here.
I agree. I think I probably, in hindsight, should have taken or left the Duresses out, because while his stall package, like Temporal, Snap, that kind of thing, is spell-based, the linchpin of his deck really is the Familiars, and if I can focus on taking those out, I think I'm probably in a better place. So I think in hindsight, I would probably take the 3 Duresses back out and put like 2 Loose Focuses and another Snuff Out back in. Just so that I have more answers for the Familiars. Snuff Out is the least effective removal spell I had, so I left the 2 Cast Downs in. But yeah, there's some changes I'd make in hindsight, but I think overall my rationale was solid. Just maybe lacking in a little bit of experience in this matchup, because who's ever run this matchup before?
It's a game that you might be the first 2 people to ever play this matchup before. So you mull this, I assume.
Yeah, this is a mulligan for sure. It's just, we just...
You just don't get to act out your game plan.
Yeah, that's just not something we can do. We mulled a 6. Unfortunately, this is also a mulligan.
Yeah, that's not doable either.
Nope.
No lands!
No lands, and no ramp spells, so we couldn't even like hard force a Battle Rager on turn 1 and pray or anything like that. So, fortunately, this is a mull to 5. Kali does mull to 6 here. But he stops at 6, and I have to keep going, which is a bit unfortunate. But it's kind of, equilibrium for his mold of 5 in our first game. So, I had to pay the dues. But this is exactly what we want, because this is a turn 1 Aarakocra
with the Cabal Ritual. Yeah.
So this is a turn 1 Aarakocra Sneak. We are just going to throw the 2 things that aren't turn 1 Aarakocra Sneak away. I did consider throwing away Gurmag Angler plus Cabal Ritual and just waiting for a Yeah, I heavily considered it, because my game plan after the last match was, if I can't win on initiative, to hard commit on Crypt Rats and wipe his board.
Because you need mana to do that. Oh, you'd have 1 swamp.
So I figured that I might be, because my game plan here was, if I keep 1 swamp, Lotus Petal, Spirit Guide, Aarakocra Sneak, and Crypt Rats, I might not be able to turn 1 it, but if I draw any land or mana source, I get another land off the sneak from initiative.
I feel like his deck is so fast.
Yes.
Is that what you end up doing?
Because that wasn't what I ended up doing. I ended up kind of talking myself off the ledge and just going with the turn 1 Aarakocra Sneak and throwing the Crypt Rats back. I think that's the right play, but it was worth kind of going down the rabbit hole as to what are my outs if this doesn't work. Because I was really concerned with this hand. If he just goes land pass and then land snap, I'm in a lot of trouble.
So why did you keep the... Oh yeah, you need the Simian Spirit Guide to cast.
Yes.
That makes sense. Because you need it for the Cabal Ritual, and you need the blue from the Lotus Petal.
Exactly. Okay. So I was really afraid to keep this without a backup plan, because if he ends up just snapping my
Dispel is
sneak,
not bad.
No, Dispel is a good hit here.
You don't have the mana to cast it, but you'll get an island with the sneak, right?
Yes. Fortunately, he led on an Evolving Wilds, which is not an island, and the only card in his 75 that could interfere with me right now is Spell Pierce, which he cannot cast. So I just get licensed to just pull the trigger and go for it, so I get to turn 1 initiative again, which is
currently
fantastic.
This seems like your game to win. I mean, you've got a Dispel up for if he has a snap or a...
Well, I don't have a Dispel up, which is unfortunate.
Frantic Search? Oh, well, it's turn 2. So he'd play a Familiar here, I assume?
Well, the problem is he could end of turn Evolving Wilds and then just play an untapped land and snap me now.
Oh,
and
yeah, he could do that.
Now,
that's correct.
I'm in trouble. Right? I'm in big trouble if he snaps me now.
Is that what happens? Because usually I feel like this game is yours, and you're not talking like you're very confident. No, he plays a swamp.
He plays a swamp, no blue source, and plays a Nightscape Familiar. Now, there are a few things here to consider. I'm not going to lie. I probably don't think about this turn as hard as I should have. I just attack.
So he can take the initiative, meaning he gets probably the color he needs, because he doesn't have blue yet.
And I didn't think hard enough about that when I made that attack. I just figured that this deck is fast and resilient, and I needed to put as much pressure on him as possible. And I was okay trading the initiative to do that. But in hindsight, I almost certainly should have just sat back on this Dispel and deprived him of a basic land. Because him getting the island here, I think, I haven't confirmed with him yet, is a huge turning point. Because I don't know if he had one in hand before he took the initiative. I should have asked him. I haven't. But he ends up getting the initiative from me, and then getting an island and playing an island here. And this is...
If he gets even if he already had an island, getting a second island allows him... Oh no, he doesn't need to double spell, because everything he has untaps his lands.
Exactly.
But it allows him to play a Sunscape Familiar.
Yeah, what it allows him to do is now have...
he can play
one
Compulsive
blue
Research.
Mana open, so he can play Frantic
Search.
He can play Frantic Search, he can play Caldeferes, he can play Snap, he can play anything that untaps his land here. Which was a pretty big mistake by me. I should have definitely denied this initiative.
I mean, usually with that deck, you're always attacking, so it seems so counterintuitive to keep it back. Exactly. I do agree that would have absolutely been the correct play.
Fortunately, he just plays Compulsive Research and passes. He doesn't have an untapper, which is fantastic for me at that interval. I end up drawing a cast down here, which is pretty nice. I wish I would have had an extra land here or a mana source instead of this second sneak so that I could cast down with this Dispel up. But I kind of just have to decide what I want to do. We get a trap trigger here. But I go ahead and cast down this Nightscape Familiar.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the one you can snuff out. I assume you attack?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the Sunscape Familiar notably
can't
take it back, which is the reason I killed... Because snuff outs are in my sideboard, so which one I can snuff out
you cited all
matter.
of them out, yeah.
Yep.
But he can regenerate the Nightscape Familiar anyways, so...
Yes,
also,
he can regenerate the Familiar, and it can attack, which was the big reason I killed that instead of the Sunscape, was just Sunscape can't steal initiative again.
Okay, another Sunscape.
He had another Sunscape and a bounce land, which is pretty scary here.
If he can untap it, oh, there you go.
Yep, and...
So 4 cards in hand, one of them is a land. Another Cloud of Fairies, so 2 cards in hand. So currently he seems like he's running out of... Oh, never mind. He's not running out of gas. He's got a compulsive research.
Into another Cloud of Fairies. He makes a lot of mana on this turn.
And a Muldrifter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is disgusting.
Yeah, and I think you see where this is going, so I'm just going to let this play.
He doesn't even bounce the Cloud... Yeah. He doesn't even bounce the Muldrifter, meaning... Okay,
he doesn't snap the Muldrifter, which means he doesn't need to, which was the moment when I was playing when I went, oh no, this is bad for me.
And that storm count is at 12. There's no way you're ending this turn with permanence.
No, it was indeed very bad for me. Because there's the snap on the Muldrifter just to get some extra advantage. And there's the Temporal Fissure. And what I didn't consider here is how much he gets to use these extra storm triggers for additional value.
Oh yeah, he can bounce his own permanence.
Yeah. And he's going to go real big.
I love this. I didn't realize. I always saw this just as an upheaval effect.
Reset your opponent's turn. Yeah, it's not. He's going to rebuy all his value creatures here.
Oh, this is absurd.
Yeah, this turn's going to be... My board's gone, so we're just going to put that down there.
Yeah, all the Cloud of Fairies, the Muldrifter. Oh, wow. Yeah, of course Kali knows how to play this.
Yep, and we're just going to start... this is now Kali's game to win. Yeah,
he's playing Solitaire.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, he still has to win via Cloud of Fairy beatdown and Muldrifter beatdown. Because the deck doesn't have any way to one-shot kill you. It just bounces everything in its swing. I mean, swinging for 5 here when you have to play 1 land per turn is usually a game anyways.
Yes. Yeah, the kind of cool thing about this deck particularly is that there are a lot of rebuild options off of 1 mana. Especially because he can't steal the initiative this turn, so I'm going to draw 2 cards next turn. And there are a lot of 2-card combinations that let me replay at least a sneak. And replaying a sneak gets me thrown, so I get 2 creatures off 1 land. So there's a lot of rebuild potential here.
Yeah, unfortunately, your hand in this case doesn't line up with that.
Well, so, like I said, there's a lot of 2-card combinations I can draw to go off of 1 land here. So I'm going to have this swamp, and if my 2 cards are something like Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, I can actually just play it back again, which triggers Throne, which gets me a 2nd creature.
Oh, yeah, it's true. So you, even if from just your hand, you're right.
Yep, so I do still have live cards here, which is probably the only reason this game is still going. But like I said before, I did absolutely want to just let him do the thing and see the deck go off in all its glory, because this deck, especially with Kali playing it, is a terrifying force of a deck.
Also, your deck is one of the only decks that can do that. Like, lose all your permanents and then still have a live draw to potentially win the game.
Yep. And he has 5 familiars on the board.
Yep. 2 Muldrifters, 3 Muldrifters.
3 Muldrifters.
This is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, this deck is absurd. And he's got 3 lands.
Storm count is 32, by the way. Just casually 32. All right, so I do hit a Lotus Petal, but I don't hit a Dark Ritual, so that is all for game 2. Kali takes it with a massive Storm turn on turn 4, by the way. That was turn 4. This is his board on turn 4. This is never what my board looks like on turn 4.
There's a reason. There's a reason he's playing a lot of banned cards.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm on the play. Fortunately, I get to keep a 7 here.
And this is a good hand, right?
This is a very good 7.
You get a sneak on turn
1.
2. Yeah, 2. Turn one?
Turn
you
one.
play the island, you play the pedal. Oh, yeah. But how do you get balloon?
I ritual off the pedal, and then I use the island.
Ah, yeah, okay, yeah. This is why you're playing this deck and not I am. Yeah, okay, that's, oh, wow.
And I have a basic to get off of the initiative, which lets me have lose focus up for his turn 2. So
that's so good.
Quick touch on my sideboard. You'll notice everything I did last time, almost.
You undid.
I undid. Now, I kept the Muldrifter out, and I took out the Singleton Gurmag Angler, and I kept the 2 Crypt Rats in. Because after watching the deck play games 1 and 2, I realized that if I ever did land a board wipe, it could send him back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, even that turn with, I mean, he could have had Counterspell backup. He seemed to have tapped out. But even that turn where he did the Big Fisher. Oh, yeah. But that's it. So even that turn where he had the Big Fisher, if you just had one, oh no, you needed 3 mana up for the Crypt Rats.
But that's just a single Dark Ritual. You know
what I mean?
That's all I need in this deck.
You need to not use your Dark Ritual to turbo out your creature and then have it up. But yeah, that means you could wipe the board and just completely null out his winning turn.
Exactly. Okay. So I keep both the Crypt Rats in just as a backup plan. I think that that's probably the way I should have played game number 2, is try as hard as I can to play my game plan, but have Crypt Rats as a fallback instead of trying to stop him with more card slots. Because I think that while I didn't see any of the card swaps in the last game, I think that diluting like the loose focuses and that kind of thing really weakens my kind of protection to my combo. But anyway, I get to keep this hand, which is great. I don't remember if he mulligans. I think he goes to 6. Yeah. Once again, I mean, these decks are just very mulligan heavy. That's just kind of how these decks goes. And
you can afford to mulligan because you just need a small combination of cards. Less so his deck. It's not about getting the right combination to land one scary threat on turn 1.
No, he really just needs like a familiar and like a Cloud of Fairies or a Frantic Search, and he can start going. But
yeah, but he still needs a little bit more card draw. He needs to get his storm count up.
Yes, but this is a fantastic 7, so we're gonna keep the 7. We're just gonna Windmill Slam this Aarakocra on turn 1. No reason not to. All he can have is a Spell Pierce, so we're 100% safe.
Yeah, you're fine.
And his soonest interaction is Snap on turn 2. And we have a lose focus that'll be untapped and ready for that. So
and he even plays a tap land on turn 1. Well, I mean, I don't think his deck does a lot of turn 1 shenanigans except for Spell Pierce, right?
No. So I had a decision to make here. And I considered playing a tap land to set up the draw of any of my 4-drops on the following turn. But ultimately decided that was silly, and I was just going to leave lose focus up.
Yeah, that has to be correct to keep up the lose focus.
So we leave lose focus up.
If you counter familiar.
Exactly. If I can counter a familiar, I slow him down by a crucial turn, and 1 turn sometimes is all this initiative needs to win the game, right? So, fortunately, he goes the route of game 1 and just cold bounce lands on turn 2.
Wow.
Which is an absolute godsend, because we get a whole free turn without having to spend our lose focus, which is fantastic, because it means that we'll have lose focus next turn.
Yeah.
So we just trap him, we just hit face, we play a land, we pass the turn. It's nice.
Yeah, you didn't even draw
here.
The creature you could have played anyways.
Exactly. Kali down to 9. He goes to the Sunscape Familiar. We have the lose focus.
Where we'll see the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, so if he has Spell Pierce, we're actually really sad here because we can only make 1 out of this Simian Spirit Guide.
Yep.
We're close to being able to make 2, but we don't have it. Fortunately, neither does he. So this Sunscape is dead.
All right.
and we get a whole time walk here for this 2 mana, which is pretty incredible.
This is looking great for you right now.
Yes, it is. Right now.
Oh, really? Does he bounce? Because now you have no interaction. So
now I have no interaction.
The throne doesn't do that much for you next turn.
And I hit my 2 deadest cards in the world.
I mean, if he bounces all your permanents, they're not bad. You can, if you draw, like you can play the Swamp, the Spirit Guide, the Ritual. Oh no, you still can't play your creature with that.
Nope.
Because you need Balloon.
Yep.
Oh, are
So
you about to get fissured?
it's not looking good for me. I'll say that. That snap.
Oh,
And
you are about to get
I
fissured.
am about to get fissured. My whole board comes back to my hand.
Oh, wow. That Familiars deck is insane.
It is. It's so good. And this game gets so hard so quick. But we're
It
going to do a
looked like
pop
there was
quiz.
no way Kali was winning this.
We're going to do
Sorry?
a pop quiz.
Okay.
What's the play? Because I had a friend watching me over my shoulder while I was playing this game, and he didn't see the line here, and I did.
So he has 3 cards in hand.
Yes.
Can I see his board?
Yeah, he has 3 cards. He's tapped out. He has a
Cloud of Fairies and a
Sunscape
Familiar.
Familiar and a Cloud of Fairies.
So if you get the Rager, you're still far away from the Forge, and he can pressure you and steal it. Can you play the Sneak somehow? No. You could if you know, because you get a creature, you get the initiative, you get an island, but the island, I assume, so Crypt Rats gets you to play a swamp, a ritual. Oh, is it the Crypt Rats?
It is. And it's because the throne gives it 3 1/1 counters. So this Crypt Rat
so it
lives
stays
its
alive.
pulse for 3.
That's so good.
So I get to play a swamp, discard a spirit guide, play this Cabal ritual, pulse
Yeah.
for 3, wipe the board, put him at 3, and I have a 4/4 creature in play.
That's so good. And you can also untap, play a land, play the spirit guide, and just dome him for 3.
Well, I also, I top decked another Cabal ritual, so I can do it
you're
again
fine.
next turn and pulse for 3. But he Seagate Oracles, he doesn't have a Familiar to reload, so it seems like the board wipe pays off here, and comes down real quick, because we don't
Also-
even need to sweat.
Yeah, he doesn't even know that you have like mana generation in hand. To him, he can play the Oracle and block.
Yes.
And you have 2 mana, so
But
you
it
can't
doesn't
get him.
even come down to that, because we top deck the Snuff out and just
Oh,
clean.
still had all these.
Yeah.
Good
And
get.
that
Wow.
is the game.
Oh, these decks are dangerous.
Yeah, a really close best of 3. Like, I turn 1 to initiative every single game, and it almost wasn't good enough.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So we clearly saw how crazy the Familiars deck is here, but that goes to show a lot about how old is a Fisher Familiar deck? Like we saw how crazy the initiative deck is, the Turbo Initiative. Clearly you had initiative on turn 1 every time, but it really you'd think a deck from 2011.
Yeah,
is the way it
2011.
can challenge something that most people have as pick as probably one of the best
And
decks in
it's-
the tournament.
Yeah, it's worth noting that in the prediction standings, Fisher Familiar is like number 3 seed in the top 8 standings by prediction. So a lot of people expect this deck to do very well. And I honestly, it was a really close game. So it was awesome to play Kali on a Familiars deck. That's so cool.
That was
watch it go
exciting.
off. I mean, yeah,
I
it's
feel like
great
if you
match.
had picked your throne trigger differently, I feel like you could have lost that. Like you,
if you fall for the trap of going for initiative creature on that throne trigger, I think you lose that game.
wow,
Yeah.
that was an exciting match. That was really good.
Yeah, super exciting match. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I wanted to share. So it was an awesome match. And GG's Cali. Excited to see the rest of the tournament. So
Okay, and we'll see you guys in the next round.